Rapport is power. Earlier today we said anything you want to achieve, anything you want to learn, master, experience, there's somebody out there who has a life experience, the understanding, the network, the capital, the thing you need to be able to achieve it. But they're not going to give you what they want, or they're not going to give you what you want, rather, and need, until you first give them what they want and need. And you're not even going to find out what they want and need until you first get in a relationship of rapport. If you don't do that, you're never going to learn anything. Rapport is power. What is a relationship of rapport? Rapport means total responsiveness between people. When someone is totally responding to you, and you're totally responding to them, you're in rapport. There's that connection. It's that spark that happens in certain communications or relationships. Now, everybody wants to create rapport, have it, but most people only get rapport with people who are like whom? Themselves, and they lose with everybody else, which means you got a very limited world. So we want to take it to a different level. So let's say, for example, if I said to you right now, guys, I want you to go out to a local restaurant or bar, and I want you to meet somebody, and I want you to develop rapport with them, a connection with them. How many feel like you could do that? No problem. Say aye. And if you're not raising your hand, you're probably selling yourself short. Of course you could. How would you do it, though? You'd walk in this restaurant or bar, you meet somebody, and you'd engage them in conversation by asking a few what? Questions. Now, is it possible to ask a few questions and have a conversation and go, poof, and just die? Is that possible? Yes or no? So questions don't create rapport. Questions are a tool we use to dig for something. What are you digging for when you're asking these questions? You're trying to find something in what? That's right. So write in your notes, rapport is created by a feeling of commonality. Rapport is created by a feeling of commonality. Rapport is created by a feeling of commonality. When we feel like we have something in common with someone, there's a spark. Now, here's the problem. If rapport is created by a feeling of commonality, most people try to get rapport by using words. But you've already learned something. What percentage of our communication skills are words? What percentage? 7%, which means you're leaving out 93% of your skills, which is why most people don't get rapport with a large number of people. You know, what do? You walk in a restaurant or a bar and go, hi, what's your name? Where are you from? Why are you here? And the person says, my name's Habib. I'm from Iraq. I'm a terrorist. I'm here to kill people. And you go, amazing. Me too. No. See, words don't always work, do they? But there is something that always works to get rapport, and it's something called matching and mirroring. Matching and mirroring. Now, matching and mirroring came about 35 years ago when we've all done matching and mirroring our whole lives. But the person who pointed out was Milton Erickson. Dr. Erickson was a genius. What he did was he was a medical doctor, but he also was a psychologist and a hypnotherapist, probably the best that ever lived. And people would come to see him who try to change everything anywhere else in their life, nothing would work. They see him for one session, he'd handle it. And the reason is because he understood something. He understood that you have both a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. And he knew the subconscious is more powerful. It's the part that makes your heart beat 100,000 times a day without having to think about it. So he knew if he could influence your subconscious mind, he could change anything, and that's what he did. But here's how he did it. He had polio, so he was in a wheelchair. So he spent an enormous amount of time studying people. And he began to notice something about human beings, that when human beings got together, if they got in rapport, a relationship of responsiveness, they became like each other in a variety of ways. What he called, they mirrored each other. Now, I've taught this for 25 years, so I'm sure you've heard of it. I've written it in my books, and it's been taught in a variety of other areas now. But it's one thing to know it intellectually or to understand it. It's another thing to know it while you're doing it. That's what I want to get you to do tonight, so you have a real experience of it that you won't forget. But here's the basis of it. People like people who are like whom? Themselves. And people don't like people who are not like themselves. To be more specific, write this down. People like people who are like themselves or who are like how they would like to be. People like people who are like themselves or are how they would like to be. People like people who are like themselves or how they would like to be. So question, I'd like you to think of someone you really, really like a lot. And then if you would, raise your hand if this person is either like you or they're like how you want to be. If that's true, raise your hand and say, I. Of course, that's why you like them. Now, think of someone you don't like. And I'm sure you like everyone, but if you once were an unspiritual person and felt these feelings, someone you don't like, raise your hand if they're not like you or they're not like how you want to be. If that's true, raise your hand and say, I. And that's the opposite. People don't like people who are not like them or are not like how they want to be. That's the bottom line of it. So this concept, Erickson noticed, he used it in the following way. Watch me. If you came in to see Dr. Erickson, instead of talking to you intellectually and trying to get through to you, he'd go right for the jugular by getting your nervous system connected to him, getting rapport. So if you came to him and you said, Dr. Erickson, I don't know, this is a waste of time. I've tried everything and I don't know, I think I should just go. He would do this. He'd go, I'm sure it looks that way on the surface, but you haven't tried this, so you haven't tried everything, and I think you should stay. And the person would go, something about this guy I like. You know, he's not over the top, you know what I mean? He's like really real. There's just something about him that feels down home and real to me, right? If you came in to see him and he said, Dr. Erickson, I've tried everything. It's a waste of my time. I'm out of here. He'd say, you sit down. You haven't tried everything. You've not done this before. You're staying right here. Guy goes, hey, I like this guy. He's got some spunk, kick ass. Maybe he could do something. See, he became like the people he was communicating with, and what it was is whatever they put out, he sent the same message back, like biofeedback, and it entrained them to him. So that when he then told their unconscious what to do, their brain just did it. That was his power. Now, we all do this naturally. If you want to have some fun, go out tonight to a singles bar and watch people when they first meet. And then you can see when the rapport happens. If they finally sit down and they'll start to lean in the same direction, they'll start nodding their head at the same tempo. If one's tapping their foot, often you'll see the other one tap their foot. The volume and tone of their voice will start to mirror if they're in rapport. If they're out of rapport, you'll see them in direct opposites of this nature. Now, if you want to be effective then, mirroring is so easy. We do it naturally, but here's the problem. Most people wait till they have enough words in common that then they put the voice in common and the body in common. But words are only 7%. They don't work all the time. And by the way, do we judge people in a matter of seconds by their style, yes or no? That's right. Write this in your notes. Style is more important than substance initially. Style is more important than substance initially. That sounds terrible, but it's true. Style is more important than substance initially. Now, notice I say initially. If you don't have any substance, it's not going to last. But you can have lots of substance and no style, and people never hear a word you say. No one will ever get to know what you believe. I'll give you an example. How many have ever dealt with somebody whose tone of voice alone drove you up a wall and you couldn't listen to anything they said? They had like dentist drill tonality. How many have been with somebody like this? Say I. Okay? So that style gets in the way of substance. Now, let's give an example. Let's say you and I want to mirror someone. We want someone to feel connected to us, and we're going to do it on the phone. What are some aspects of the voice that you could mirror that would make them unconsciously immediately feel connected to you? What are some aspects? You tell me. Okay, tone of voice, as we just said, is a perfect one. Because if you're talking like this, and they're talking like this, and I say, well, I don't know, what do you think? You're not going to feel very comfortable through time. Tone of voice is huge. If you mirror someone's tone of voice, they will feel connected to you and not even know why. What else besides tone of voice could you mirror on the phone? Okay, tempo. What kind of person talks at this particular pace like I'm talking right now? What kind of people talk at this particular pace? What part of the country tends to talk at this pace? Come on, where? Where? What part of the country? Where? And New York would be good. One New York would be a good example. How do people talk more like this? Feel about those fast-talking city slickers. Do they trust them? No. They don't even know how to say the word dog. How does a fast-talking person feel about a slow-talking person? What do you think, Mary? Mary, what do you think, Mary? What do you think, Mary? What do you think? Mary goes, well, what? How many have ever seen this mismatch between two people? right? What else besides speed? Volume. Loud talking people. Who do they like? They love loud talking people. They know you're a real man, you're a real woman too. Who else likes loud talking people? Deaf people like loud talking people. But how do quiet talking people feel about those loud talking people? They're obnoxious, aren't they? And of course, intelligent people talk like you and I do, don't they? Do we judge people in a matter of seconds by their volume, by their tone, by their tempo? Yes or no? You better believe we do. What else could you mirror on the phone? Terminology, key words. There's certain words people use again and again. If you sell real estate and somebody comes in and says, I'm looking for a magnificent home, do you want to say, oh, I have a fantastic place to show you? No, I had this experience myself once. I said, I'm looking for this. No, I got a fantastic place. Fantastic and magnificent may be the same to you, but I guarantee they aren't for the other person. If you mirror their words, they will feel heard, they will feel understood, and they will also feel you're as smart as they are. What else besides words, tone, tempo, volume, accent? Well, only if you really have that accent. Because if you try to duplicate it, it's not really your accent, you're going to break rapport, right? What about the body? What could you mirror in the body if you were there in person? What could you mirror? Posture is very powerful. They're really upright, you're upright. They're more relaxed, you're more relaxed. What else? Gestures. Watch this. If somebody's talking, and people are funny, when they're making important points, people have idiosyncratic gestures. Idiosyncratic mean gestures that are all their own. So if you're talking to this guy and he says, I don't think so, I think we ought to do this, and he makes this funny little gesture when he's talking about what he really wants to do. If you turn back to him and say, you know, that's a great idea. Can I ask you a question, though? What if we did this instead? You make that same little motion with your hand and look at him and be like, a friend. You think I'm kidding. You go out tonight at dinner and you find somebody who's on an angle to you or in front of you. Don't even look at them. Just mirror them for 5 to 10 minutes. They reach for the glass, reach for the glass. The glass is empty, no one's going to notice. Just reach for the glass. They bring it up, they bring it down, bring it down. They reach for the fork, reach for the fork. 5 to 10 minutes. 5 minutes usually, 10 minutes max. After you've done this for 5 to 10 minutes, you want to have some fun? Reach for your glass and watch what they do. They'll reach for it like that. It's called pacing and leading. It's also known as entrainment. Many of you know that if you go to an old clock shop where they have those old grandfather clocks where they have the little pendulum, that once they wind them, those pendulums start out different and they all end up in sync. It's called entrainment. Women know this, but most men don't. So I'll just share this with you. Women have the ability to be like clocks with other women. When women hang out together, men, they literally end up having their periods at the same time. So that all the men are crazy during that time. Is it true, ladies? Yes or no? If they're in rapport, their periods become in sync. So if women's periods can come in sync, you could get rapport with a stranger across the room. What about eye contact? A lot of business people and salespeople have been taught a total lie. They've been taught, like, if you're really, truly going to influence someone, you must look directly into their eyes and not break eye contact for 45 straight minutes. This way they know you really mean it. There's only one problem with that. The problem is people like people who are like whom? Themselves. So if you got somebody who just stares in your eyes and doesn't blink for 45 straight minutes, it's going to freak you out. What kind of person stares in your eyes and doesn't break eye contact? Aliens, that's who. Most humans look away, right? So if they look away, give them a break and look away. Don't make them crazy. Now, if you meet somebody who like locks eyes with you and doesn't break eye contact, you lock eyes right back, you keep them on them for 45 minutes, they'll know you're an alien too, it'll build rapport. What else? What else besides eye contact, facial expressions, gestures, posture? Come on, what else? Breathing. Breathing's very powerful, one of the most powerful. If you breathe at the exact same pace as another person, you will feel what they are feeling, period. But you got to be breathing from the same location, the same tempo. And breathing is magnificent because it really hooks you to this person. How many of you can think of a time in your life when you were breathing at the same pace as another person and you felt really close for some reason. Anybody think of a time like that? See, I used to do a lot of sexual therapy for couples, and when you help people in this area, you get a practice, because people pay anything, they'll fly anywhere to get this part of their life handled. So I ended up with a 6-month waiting list, no exaggeration. I mean, every single day book, and people would be calling me based on referrals because I help their friends, and they'd be like, I gotta see you, gotta see you now. And I'm like, I got a 6-month waiting list. No, I'll pay you for your lunchtime, I'll buy your dinner. I'm going, look, how about I refer you to somebody I've trained? There are lots of people I've trained. No, it's gotta be you. So here's how I would deal with it. I would say, okay, I will give you one of my lunches if you take an assignment I give me, but first you got to answer some questions honestly. Here's the first question. When you make love, do you breathe in unison while you're making love? And invariably the guy would go, huh? And I'd say, let me explain. You're here telling me about all these things you're upset with each other about. And you can talk about these things till you're blue in the face, but the real problem is you don't feel connected, you don't feel love. And I said, you don't have that feeling of total oneness with each other. And talking more about this is not going to change it. So if you really want to change this, I suggest you do this. And if you do what I'm telling you, still need me, I'll give you one of my lunches. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to go home and I want you to make love for an hour and a half minimum. And while you're doing it, I want you to breathe in unison the entire time with each other. Because what happens is you feel totally connected as one. Out of, who knows, 3 to 4 dozen people I asked to do that, only one person ever called us back and wanted to be able to do a session. Because the bond is there. So try it. Not now, later this evening. Plus, the great thing about mirroring somebody's breathing, it's very subtle. No one's going to jump out of their chair and say, would you stop mirroring my breathing? I mean, they're not going to notice. So you got breathing, you got posture, you got gestures, you got facial expressions, you got eye contact. What else could you mirror? Come on, use your brain. I know the answer. I want to see if you can come up with it. Come on. What else could you mirror? Proximity, good. What does proximity mean? Proximity means everybody has a certain amount of space that they need to be comfortable. And it's different for every single person you're going to meet in your life. So if I come walking up here like this, and I start walking, let's say, along here, and I walk up to this lady here, she's comfortable right now. If I come here, I'm right on the edge of her comfort zone. Am I right? She's... You can see it in her face. How do I know? Because the muscles of her neck went, her face went, it all tightened, and she stopped breathing. That's a clue. Now, that doesn't mean she doesn't want you to come closer, but that's the first moment of her starting to feel impact. If I come right back to here, there we go. Now she's breathing again. How many can see the difference? Can you see it? You can see all of a sudden she's breathing it. So this is more comfortable. Watch the difference here versus here. How many have had somebody do this where they get this close to your face and you just want to punch them? How many have had this experience? And they almost always have bad breath too, don't they? So when somebody, and are there people like that get this close in your face, yes or no? Now, if you pull back, though, you just broke rapport because that's what they need to feel good. So you got to like hang in there with those people. So it's different for every person that you meet. So how do you know? Do you just guess? No, you use your sensory what? Acuity. You have acute sensitivity to see what's the impact. Oh, I'm getting here. Is this working? Oh, I can come closer or not. Where is it? And it can change too. Someone can have initial reaction and then they can let you closer. But you pay attention because if you don't do this, breaking rapport in this area, people don't even think when you're in their space. One of the things I've always done, like when I even learned NLP, one of the first real dynamic set of tools I learned psychologically, I would go to these classes with these psychologists and psychiatrists, and we'd have an all-day session, which their idea of all day was 4 hours. Yeah, it'd be like we'd start at 10 and at noon we're taking lunch. I'm like, where the hell are we going? We're going to lunch for an hour and a half, and then we come back at 1:30, and sure enough, by 3:30 or 4, it was the end of the program. And I was like, Jesus, you didn't even do a quarter of a day. So I took the rest of the time and I extracted everything I could from what I learned. There are people with 10 times more skill than I had or ability, but my level of application compared to theirs, I dwarfed it. And it's because while I was still there, I didn't leave the environment. I've always had this belief. If you want to be successful at anything in life, never leave the sight of setting a goal without doing something that commits you to fulfillment. If you get, like, you're in state, right, when you do something. While you're in state, that's the time to commit yourself to something that makes you follow through. How many know what I'm talking about here? Say I. So I'd call somebody up, I'd schedule something, I'd lock in the next meeting, I'd sign up for the class, I'd enroll the guy who was going to mentor me, I'd set the meeting with a mastermind of people I met. I did something so that whatever I committed to, there was something when I went home that would pull me there. It's structure. In fact, I'll give you 5 C's to RPM just as a quick warm-up for you. How's that? If you don't remember, it'll be okay, but it'll be in your unconscious for when you go work with a coach. These are the 5 C's. Everything that comes in your mind, anything you can think of, because we're going to basically do a little mini RPM version of things right now. Anything comes to my mind, I'm here, and while you're here doing something, you're driving in your car, and you think of an idea for your business or one of your businesses. Where do you put it? iPhone. Where do you put it? Diary. Where do you put it? iPod. iPhone. iPhone. And how do you find it afterwards? How are you triggered to look at it again? So he goes back and reviews his app system. How do you do it? Right? Crisis. Crisis makes me go get it. How do you do it? I send an email to myself. Oh, good, more emails with more to-dos, right? So I don't care what your system is, but when you have RPM, you'll have one place you put it. For right now, you need one place to put it. Now, the problem is most of us have lives that if you put everything in one place, it just becomes even more overwhelming. Who knows what I'm talking about here? So the first step, I'll just tell you that, is C, is capture. You got to capture. And the motion I do is like this. Imagine doing this, like physically capturing it, pulling it out of my head, and putting it in one place. I don't care what your one place, it's got to be one place. Now, ideally, in that one place, you'd have some categories so you don't throw everything on one giant list. Does that make sense? So you might have a category for me. I have companies. So I have Robbins Research, I have Namali Resort, I have Metabolife, I have all these different companies. So I'll drop it in that area as an example. Or roles for me as a father. I don't have time to demonstrate this for you, but just know the first thing you want to do is keep it out of your head, have it in one place. Why do you want to do that? Keep lots of extra mental RAM available. When you have to keep thinking about stuff, it creates inner stress. If you know it's there, and you know you're going to look at it consistently, like you do it once a week, once a day, and you're going to review it and do something with it. Something with it might be, forget it, I'll do it later, tomorrow, but you're going to do something with it, you'll be able to let go. How many think that's pretty much something you try to do already? Most people try to do this, don't you? But the reason most people don't do it is because making lists, after a while, they stop doing. Tell me why they stop doing it. Who's made lists and then not kept the lists up, your, quote, to-do lists? Why don't you keep those to-do lists up? Because every time you go there, they're so damn what? How many have always got more to do if you do make the list than you have time? So it inherently says, why am I doing this? RPM is a different mindset. Our mindset is, we're just first capturing it. We know we're not going to do most of this. But we need to be able to later, when it's time, decide which things are worth doing, and more importantly, what are we really after? We're going to use these to trigger us to say, all this relates to maybe something more important. How many follow the philosophical difference here? Say I. My goal is not get things done. This is not GTD. This is use the things you need to get due to stimulate a higher level of thinking of what you really want, why you want it, and become very strategic about how to get that. And many of these things may go away, or they just won't matter. But you do have to capture it, because otherwise it's in your head. So I have a lot of systems of doing it, but if you never saw me again, the most basic thing you need is one place to capture. Does that make sense? And what's step 1 of RPM? It's a C. You got to what? Capture, which means get it out of your head, put it one place. Second thing, you got to make sense of all this crap. And the way you do that, step 2, is you create a plan. And a plan for me has 3 parts. And the 3 parts are 3 questions that I ask and 3 actions I take. And again, you'll learn this. I'm not trying to teach this all right now. I just want to plant some seeds in your mind. Is this okay? Is this useful? So when you're going home, you got all this captured stuff you just did here, right? Now you got to start to create a plan. You got to look at all this stuff and say, okay, there's more here than I can do. So what I really need is read all this stuff and start to see, well, all these things relate to one thing. All these relate to another. If I'm a mom and I made my list, and on the list I have things like I got to pick up the laundry, oh, I got to drive the kids to school, I've got to do this thing for the PTA, I got to clean the house, oh, I got to run my business that I run out of the house, I got to do the accounting, I want to have spent some time with my husband at the end of the day. Soccer mom. Totally stressed out. But if I write all those things down, get them out of my head, and when I write them all down, I then start to put them together and go, this, and this all relates to my kids. This all relates to the house being great. This, and this all relates to my business. And this is about my personal life being rich and happy. I'm able to do something really nice. I'm able to go from this, which is what your capture list looks like. You'll start writing it down. You go, I got to do this, and that, and this, and this. And you start to feel good. It's out of my head. But then you go, I got to do this, and I got to do this, and I got to do this. Oh, I got to do this. I got to do this, and 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 I got to do this. I got to do that too, and that too. So step 2 is I look at my capture list and I create a plan. And the way I create a plan is I start to figure out, what do I really want? That's what the world is saying to me. That's what's in my head. What do I want? I might start to group some things together. I might start to say, let's take a look at this. You know something? Watch this. Watch this for a second. This item here, clean the house, and this thing, and this thing, and this thing, these all relate to the house. And my outcome there is I want a magically clean house because, why? It makes me feel fully alive. And then, oh, by the way, this, and this all relates to my children. Oh, and this, and this relates to my business. And oh yeah, this is me personally. Anybody see what happens? Suddenly, 80 action items or 12 or 30 will turn into 4 outcomes. There's something here that I want for my home. There's something I want here for my kids. There's something I want here for my business. There's something I want for me. And what that does is now I can start to go, okay, instead of reading all these items, what do I really want for my kids? What's my outcome this week or today? And you get really, really clear about what you're after. You use this to take you to another level higher. Use this to trigger a higher vision instead of letting this limit you. And once you know what you want, that's the first question. So create a plan has 3 questions to it and 3 actions. First question is, what do I really want? How many of you would feel different in your life just by this language change? What do I have to do versus what do I really want to accomplish? Would that change the way you feel about your life? Yes or no? How does it feel with have to do? See, RPM, when you finally learn it, has many pieces to it. Above all else, it's a thinking process. And better thinking creates better results. It's that simple. So you don't have to ever use a piece of paper to think this way. From now on, all this stuff's happening, you go, what's my outcome? What am I really after? What do I want? What's the specific results? Like, what's the target? Let's chunk up. I don't ever go in a meeting with anyone. What do you think the first words out of my mouth are when I sit down in a meeting after the hellos and the proper connections? What do you say? I always say, what are the outcomes for this meeting? Because how long the meeting is based on getting the results that we're there for. It makes a much more fulfilling life. Or if you can't get in that time, that outcome's still not done. We got to come back and get that outcome done. How many follow what I'm talking about here? Say I. Now, when you get clear what your outcomes are, that's the first question of creating a plan. Second question is, why do I want it? Why? Why is this important to me? Why is this something that really is a must for me? I don't have to do it. I want to do this. Why is this transformative? What's exciting about this to me? And almost all of you have certain key words that are triggers for you. And language shapes your emotion. You want to have a nutritious meal or a delicious meal. You might say, I need a nutritious meal. But what if I said, this is a delicious, nutritious meal? You're more in. If I said to you, I want to introduce you to this person, they're really nice versus they're delicious. Who knows what I'm talking about here? So when you learn RPM, you're going to learn that RPM is a system of thinking, that RPM is the power of language. Because you can change a few words in your outcome. It'll totally change where you end up and what you're going after in your life. RPM is a visual chunking system, a way to take all that stuff you saw and group 82 things down to 4. And guess what will happen to your stress level? Through the floor. Guess what happens to your concentration ability? Through the roof. What are you going to focus on? That's another one. RPM is a focusing tool. It makes you focus on what's most important, because most people major in minor things. Am I making sense? So you got to know, why are we doing this? And I always look at two levels of why. Why for me, why for the team. What's the big why? If I'm involving other people, if it's just me, then it's me. But I usually have the big why. So I said three. Step one is capture. Step two is create the plan. There were three questions. What are they? Number one is, what do I really? Or another word for that is, what is my? Or another word for that is, what is the result? And I eventually try to get it to a result because I want to make it measurable, if at all possible. If I can't get it measurable in a short time, I want major progress on is my outcome, right? Or complete something, or whatever it is. My purpose are some key words. Write this down. Purpose, I should say, activity without purpose is the drain to your life. Activity without purpose is the drain to your life. It's the drain to your wealth. It's the drain to your lifestyle. Three questions. What's my outcome? What's my purpose? What's my why? Third one, what's my massive action plan? Or another, say, what do I need to what? Now you ask that question, it makes some sense. Because what to do depends on what your outcome is. Otherwise, what you're going to do is going to be based on stress, concern, fear, people interrupting you, reacting, demands. And so your life is nothing but a reaction tool. Of all the tools I have, this may be the most valuable one, ironically. Because this is the one how it all gets executed. And I don't teach it very often. So, third question is, what's my massive action plan? What do I need to do to achieve this? And when you do that, you'll take things off your capture list and you'll cross them off as they fit in, or you'll say, I don't even need to do that. So, to create a plan, there's three questions and then there's three actions. This gets a little more technical, but I think you can pick it up real easy. You take those action items and you put them in order of importance. Does that make sense? But the way I do that more quickly is I go put a star next to the ones that are the 20% that's going to give me 80% of the result. Because I know I'm not going to do all these action items. I know even if I intend to, I'm going to get interrupted 20 million times. So I want to know, what's the 20% of this list? I've got an outcome. I got a purpose. And I have this little block. The center of the target is the outcome. I see the purpose with all the juicy words. Why I'm doing this? Now I got this list of 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 things, action items. They're all related to kids, that kid outcome. I'm not going to do all those today. Which are the 20% that make the biggest difference? I star those. And guess what else I do? I figure out what's the 20%, what I call it, what are the must items. My musts are the 20% that are going to make 80% of the difference. That way, every day I can still succeed. That's why I still do my lists and most people don't. Because I don't do lists. I come up with outcomes and purposes, and I got lists within them, and they're highly prioritized with what matters. And later on, if I want to come back and do more, great. So, 3 questions, 3 actions. The actions are, star the things that are musts. 2, establish the real time. The real time is I go minimum to maximum. On each of those items, I go, how long is this really going to take? Why is that important? Because most of you overwhelm yourself and say, this will be, I just had a meeting with my team the other day, and I said, how long is this going to take? And somebody said, that'll probably take us 10 weeks. I said, okay, let's sit down and do it. Let's sit down and lay out where that 10 weeks is going to come from. And we're all done. It was about 7 hours worth of work. Because we all overestimate when it's in our what? In our head. You sit down, look at each item, and you look at the 20%, and you mark, okay, 20 to 25 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes. And by the way, at the end of the day, what do I look at? What are my start items? What's the minimum time necessary to get that result? That's what I go do. Same thing with my week. So, 3 questions. I create a visual block where this separates from everything else. Below it, I'll split a space and I'll create another block. When you learn RPM, you'll see that visually. I don't think I want to throw up for you right now. But basically, in the center of my page, I see the target of what I'm after. I write my result. To the right, I write my juice. Purpose. To the left, I put my action list. Put in order of importance, boom. Asterisk, boom. Minimum must time, I'm ready to rock and roll. Here's the third one, leverage. Leverage is critical. You know how I get so much done? Because I don't just get it done. I know the outcome, I know the purpose, and I look for leverage. Leverage is different than delegation. What's the problem with delegation? Delegation is you have all that needs to be done, so you give it to someone else, and you tell them what needs to be done, and when they don't do it, you're pissed off. Leverage says, I can move the biggest boulder in the world with a little bit of effort if I get something I can do it with, but I'm still part of it. So leverage is, if I'm going to leverage something here with Tom, I'm going to make sure Tom understands the what? the outcome. I want to make sure Tom understands the purpose, the why, and the action. But I might say to Tom, if you can get this done without this action or better action, go for it, baby. And I want to talk to you on this date, and we got to promise and we're going to check in before it's needed. So there's no surprises. And if you're having problems, Tom, come back to me because we're partners on this. That I call leverage, different than delegation. Who sees the difference here? Say I. So 3 questions. What creates the plan? 3 questions with a block, 3 actions. Where's my must? What's my minimum must times? Where's my leverage? And you know what I do when I have no time? There is time. I just got to leverage it. Now I'm saying, you say, I have no one to leverage it to. You know, Shane over here, right? I got all the stuff he wants to do. He can't leverage it. But Shane's answer was, hire somebody. Then he thinks about what it's going to take and goes, $125,000. I can't do that now. He's getting caught up in one way to get the outcome. Leverage. He goes through his list and goes, what if I got someone to do 20% of this stuff? I could spend 20 grand to get that much freedom. I could pay for it times 10. And if I'm really productive, my productivity should enhance the world, not only my clients and customers, but it should provide jobs for other people. And if there's anything you hate to do, it's because you're either ineffective at it or you don't think it's very important, but it is urgent. So you need to hire somebody for those things. And ideally, somebody who loves that job. You're never going to grow when your time is eaten up for activities that aren't that important. Activity without high levels of purpose is the drain of your fortune. Do it now. If you can't get it all now, do a part of it now. Leverage is power. Leverage is ultimate power. So, we said there's 5 steps. It's going to go much quicker now. This is the hardest part, is number 2. So what's the first step to doing RPM? Number 1 is you got to do what? Nice and loud, what? Step number 2 is after you capture all in one location, maybe you learn to chunk it a little bit while it's still there, see what relates. But then what's step number 2? Create a what? An RPM plan. Not just a plan, an RPM plan. R stands for result, P stands for purpose, M stands for massive action plan. RPM is like a car. You increase the RPMs, increases its power, you get from here to there much faster. RPM. Results. What does it stand for? Results focused, purpose driven, massive action plan. That's what RPM. Results focused, purpose driven, massive action plan. That's what you want. So, what are the 3 questions and the 3 actions in order if you have a plan? Tell me. First question is, what do I want? What's my outcome? What's the specific what? Result. And that's often a good way to ask that same question. Start general, what I want, turn it into an outcome, get it down to a specific result. Second question, what's my big why? What's my purpose? What's my reasons? What's my why? What's my purpose? Why do I want to do this? That's the real question. Why do I want to do this? Very different to want to than to have to, isn't it? Now, what's my massive action plan? What do I need to do? How many got this in your body by repetition now? Say I. What are the 3 actions? Number 1, we want to figure out which ones are our what? Must. 20% that makes 80% of the difference, asterisk those. Those are your priorities. You're not going to do them all. Just decide you're not going to do them all. Let go. Be free. 2, figure out minimum, maximum time for them. Estimate, just off the top of your head. 3 minutes to 10 minutes. 45 minutes to 90 minutes. Give yourself the range. On the computer, by the way, it adds it all up, and you can look at a block and it already tells you for the whole day how much time. Minimum, must time, maximum amount of time. By each RPM block, it'll do it for you. But you can do it by hand. It's well worth a few seconds to do. Third thing we want to do, see, is there any of this that we could what? How could this soccer mom leverage? Her activities are things like drive the kids to school, pick them up from the school, drive them to violin practice, drive Johnny to soccer practice. A driver. Said in perfect Russian. Could you do a carpool? Could you trade days? Yes. So that when you're doing it, could you do the morning and someone else did the afternoon? If you were really looking at this, there's ways to do it. And by the way, could you get your outcome with your kids in the morning session so the afternoon you really felt like you connected? You made more of a difference in that morning than if you've been driving them all day long, stressed out. How many follow that? Say I. I take people like this, and I can show them the real times that it takes to get their job done, and they tell me they have no time. You know they have no time? Because guess what they say to themselves all day long? I have no time. And they're so stressed, they eat up all their time telling themselves how they have no time. They think about it, they have no time. They eat up all their time. They don't think efficiently, and they don't leverage anything. If you do these first two steps, would you be light years ahead of anybody else around you? To think yes or no? Third step, commit and schedule. 3 C's so far. Capture, create the plan, commit and schedule. Let me tell you what I mean by commit. Commit is, now that I've got these, let's say, 6 outcomes for the day. Does that make sense? 6 outcome blocks. Each one of them has an outcome, a purpose, might have 4, 5, 6 action items in it. I know the most important ones. I might look at those and go, some of the stuff is scheduled. Like I have to do this at 3 o'clock today. So you lock that in your schedule. You put in what we call the big rocks first. Some of you know this metaphor. If I take a glass over here and I take this glass and I start to, see if I got a glass over here, show you what I mean. Yeah. So assume I take this glass over here and it's already this full, and then I start adding items to it. How long before this thing's going to overflow? But if this was empty and I first take the big items, the rocks of my life, the things that I have to do that I've scheduled, they go in first, a couple rocks. And then secondarily, I commit to some block time for some things that matter to me. Like I'm going to block some time here with my team between 2 and 3:30 every single Thursday where we're going to go through one of these 7 items. How many know what I'm talking about here? Okay? I'm going to block that time. Okay? I'm going to commit that time. All right? So commit is committing the most important things and then scheduling those other items that are going to be important to you. So it goes from just a list to when am I going to what? When am I going to work on it? When am I going to do it? Block times can move. Scheduled times can't unless you renegotiate. What's the difference between a block time and a scheduled time? Scheduled is you made a commitment to another person. So it can't be moved without negotiation. Got to call them, got to work it out. Block time, you could move if you need to. So it has more flexibility. Make sense? And you do this, and the way to do it, we do it on the computer. It's actually fun, but I've done it on paper for years. Okay, so we got capture, pretty easy. Just get out of your head, one location. We got create the plan, 3 questions, 3 action items you're going to do there. Then you got an RPM plan. Number 3, we commit and what? Schedule. Number 4, what do you want to do? Complete and achieve. Complete the most important items, achieve what you're after. It's that simple. And then finally, the most important one of all, to me, celebrate. They're all C's. Celebrate. Why is it important to celebrate your victories? Celebrate the magic moments of your week or the magic moments of your day. Why is it important to do that, you think? Because it's what gives you the energy to go for more. Does that make sense? Otherwise, it's like, remember I told you the cheese and cracker story? You know, you're holding out to, someday I'm going to celebrate. Someday never comes. Someday leads to a town called nowhere. Right? You don't want to be in that place. So you want to celebrate. And you want to celebrate the little victories. You want to celebrate the magic moments. How many breakthroughs have you had this week? Forget the things you've learned. How many of you have had breakthroughs, like insights, distinctions about you or your business that you couldn't put a dollar value on it? You know for you the value is infinite. How many got experiences like that? Okay? So if you don't capture that, you don't give yourself credit. When you don't give yourself credit, your brain doesn't notice it. Remember something the first day? Here's how things get created. You get obsessively focused on something. Doesn't the system help you to focus on what you want? You generate enough energy and emotion, you're totally committed, you'll do anything to achieve it. And then step 2 is execution. And step 3 is grace. But grace gets magnified the more you appreciate it. The more you notice that you're guided or that things have happened for you. Those you've been to a date with destiny, I have a core belief, and that is life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. It's your job to figure out how it's happening for you. If you don't notice it, you won't experience it, right? That's what we're talking about. So from now on, if you never saw you again and you didn't go to your coach, at least you know the thinking process. I go to a meeting. Before I go to the meeting, guess what I do? I write down a bunch of outcomes. What are my outcomes of the meeting? What do you think I do first? I have a little capture sheet for the meeting. All week long, something comes up, I write on that sheet. I don't write 20 emails to people in the middle of nowhere. Say, by the way, let's talk about this. I just capture it. When I get there, I look at my list. What are the most important outcomes? If I have some action items, what outcome do they fit under? I go in the meeting, what do I ask other people? Tell us, what are the most important what for this meeting? The most important? Everything is outcome. When you're outcome driven, you produce results like nobody else. And I'm associated with the why. Why am I doing this? Why am I in partnership with these people? Right? What's this all about? Because that'll put you in state. So, 5 parts of RPM. Let's see what they are. Number 1, what? Nice and loud. Nice and loud. Number 2, create a, yes, what kind of plan? RPM plan. What's the R stand for? Results focused. P is for purpose driven. M is for massive action plan. Massive action plan is a map. MAP, massive action plan, a map. Okay, what are the 3 questions that will make you know you have that plan? Question number 1 is, what's the next example after that? What is my outcome? What's my actual result? Second question, what's my purpose? Why do I want to do this? Why do I want to do this? What's my big whys? And then third question, what's my massive action plan? Or another word for it is, what do I need to what? Now asking what to do makes sense. Makes total sense. What are the 3 things you do in that plan in addition to those 3 questions? Figure out what the musts are. Figure out the minimum must what? And number 3, find yourself some. Great. What's step number 3? For this to be alive and not just be on a piece of paper, I got to take this from an idea and I got to commit. And when am I going to do this? What day? What week? What month? What hour? Right? I tend to plan weekly first, and I put it in days, and when I get the night before, I plan the day, because a lot moves around until that time. Right? Then after I do that, what do I need to do? What's step 4? Complete what? Complete what? All the actions? The outcomes. Complete by achieving what matters most. Cut to the chase. Get to the must. Is it possible by having that outcome so clear, you might come up with something that's not on the page that's better and get you there quicker? Yes or no? And by the way, on the computer, you can leverage a whole block. You can push a button, send it to somebody an email, push a button, and give an audio message of what you want, and they can accept it. It comes back and say they accept it. So I'm excited about what it's going to be like. Or use your iPhone, or use whatever you want. It's a thinking process. Then on the other hand, think about this. So leverage, if you leverage it, you're staying connected, you know what's going on, but also they know the outcome, they know the why. It might be useful to talk in terms of their why too. So now they're activated. Why do people do certain things and not others? Because certain things they have enough reasons to in their reasons. Other things they don't. They value something more. When people say, I didn't have time for this, what they're really saying is something else was more important to me. But usually it isn't really something that was more important. It was something else that's more urgent, and they don't know what's important to them. So maybe you can help them. Third piece is complete and achieve. Well, for complete and achieve, what's the final step? 5. Celebrate. And the way I celebrate personally is I'm constantly making lists of magic moments and accomplishments.